Okay, you guys, what is up? The King of Lightning is here today to Bleach. Yo, Bleach chapter. Yo, Bleach chapter 504 review. That is once again 540 of Bleach. Yo, listen, man. Let me tell you how, and this is the first chapter of the big thing that I'm reviewing because I have to. This had to be the first chapter that I reviewed because, oh man, dude, I read this chapter, shit you not, 6 times. Okay, the first time I read it, I was mind fucked. I was literally mind fucked. I'm sitting here and I'm reading the end of the chapter. I'm like, "What you mean? Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening?" And I'm blown out of my mind. Again, Yu-Gi-Moto came in there, mind crushed. I was mind fucked, literally. The second time I read the chapter, things starting to make sense, and I had a lot of theories coming in my mind. I was thinking about a lot of things here and there. And mainly, of course, we're talking about the reveal about Zangetsu apparently being fake Shinigami powers and in actuality being Quincy powers, and how Zangetsu emulates Yuha back. And I'm thinking about all this stuff, about the whole entire thing, about him learning Bankai at first with Yoriichi in that cavern, when he was meeting Tensa Zangetsu, when he was learning the Mugetsu, when we have the when we had his inner hollow fuse with Tensa Zangetsu. I was thinking about all these different things. Just all these things. I'm like, what the fuck? It was. I was getting a better understanding, but I was still mindfucked. All right, I was still Yu-Gi-Moto. I was still Yu-Gi-Moto. The third time I read the chapter, I was like, oh, okay. Hold on a second. Wait a second. Yo. The fourth time I read the chapter, okay, all right. The fifth time I read the chapter, okay, all right, we got it. The sixth time I read the chapter, yo, straight up. That is exactly the way shit panned out for me today when it came to Bleach. I was like, oh my god. And then, at the end of the day, only one thing doesn't make sense. And I could be dead wrong, alright? Please understand that, alright? I think I'm right. Just because I think I'm right doesn't mean I'm actually right. But if I'm right, oh, fuck me. Not literally, but fuck me, man. Oh, because when I think about this concept, I think I got it unlocked. But there's one thing that doesn't make sense to me, which I think I can actually justify with a hypothesis, but I'll get to it later. So let me do like a chapter summary. And there's actually there's going to be a 2-page read-along where I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read the 2 pages of this chapter that basically are very, very, very important. And so basically the chapter, because I'm fucking burping here right now, I'm mad fucking nervous, I'm fucking shaking, I don't know what's going on. Listen, basically the chapter is, aside from all the, forging of the Asauchi, basically we have Oetsu summon the insane clown posse. It's like a bunch of women, or like Zanpakuto chicks, and apparently they have techniques that are purposely there for forging new Zanpakuto via Asauchi. And basically it's like, the one girl we've seen before with the mohawk, she does a fire thing where one girl pours in water on the Asauchi, because the hollow / Asauchi that was following Ichigo around, basically it's kind of like Oetsu gives the word. He gives the word, and it forges into it actually turns into a Snow White sword, like a Snow White Zanpakuto. And I mean, very similar to Rukia's Shikai. I mean, that's the way it appears to be going now. It appears that Ichigo's gonna get a new sword, and this new sword may have the same attributes, the same color scheme as Rukia's Shikai. And actually, when you think about it, when Ichigo fought against his inner hollow, when he was learning his visor thing, it's probably going to be like that, like completely white. And that's going to be his real Zanpakuto. His fake one is the black one, apparently. But let me go even further. And basically what's happening is that we have... So Uetsu, he actually takes off the sunglasses. Look, he looks really dignified. Like, you're actually like Royal Korkok squad status over here. You actually look imposing. And, you know, like, he's not like a fool, like, yeah, word. Like, no, not some dumb shit like that. He's actually looking... he actually represents the Royal Korkok squad well with his face. And basically, we see him forward, like after the insane clown posse do their thing, we see them forge the Zanpakuto. I mean, the Asauchi. Actually, I don't know whether or not to call it an Asauchi or a Zanpakuto, because wouldn't a Zanpakuto be like something that Ichigo does after he trains with it, after he learns the Shikai? So, you know, for now, we'll call it an Asauchi, right? But basically, he starts forging it. And then here's where we're gonna go on the read along. And you remember, we're at the point where he's forging it. And basically, he says this. So here's Uetsu talking. The reason why this Asauchi turned whiter than snow on your touch. And Ichigo responds, not really, I don't know why. And then Uetsu continues. Didn't something like this run into your head of yours? It's just like the hollow within me. And he's referring to how the Zanpakuto, the Asauchi that he's forging right now, that he's, you know, making into a Zanpakuto, he's saying how it reminds him of the inner hollow. Which it should, because when he first touched the Asauchi, when he first grabbed it, we saw a hollow mask on its face. So obviously, that makes sense. And then he says, bingo, this sexy bastard right here is your inner hollow. Okay, so now, confirmation. The Asauchi is in fact Ichigo's inner hollow. And then he goes even further. I made this Asauchi like this in order to draw out your Zanpakuto. So what he's implying here is that even though it was established long ago that Zangetsu was his Zanpakuto, he's saying I made this Asauchi in order to draw out your Zanpakuto. What he's implying is that the Zanpakuto already there, Zangetsu, wasn't really his Zanpakuto. And so he continues, and then he says, you finally did. And then he goes even further. This hollow is Ichigo. I mean, I don't know why he's saying Chan Ichi. I have no idea why he's saying that. Whatever, because it's on manga stream. You see, on manga stream, he's saying Chan Ichi. Whatever, right? I'm gonna say Ichigo Chan, right? This hollow is Ichigo Chan's Zanpakuto. The hollow that Aizen artificially made from pulling up Shinigami souls was named White. Oddly enough, that's also how my Asauchi are made. Now, what that means exactly, I'm not too sure. I mean, off the gate, it appears that he's saying that apparently he makes his Asauchi in the same way that Aizen made that white hollow. I mean, that Aizen made Whitey, basically. And I question that because, like, off the gate, it sounds like, well, does that mean that, like, you kill Shinigami and, like, you take their souls and then you make Asauchi from their souls? I doubt that's the case, but like from a face value standpoint, that's what it seems. But again, I highly doubt it, and we're moving on. And then he continues. This hollow entered Ichigo Chan and merged with Ichigo's Chan own Shinigami powers. He's Ichigo Chan's true Zanpakuto. Now, what does that mean? That means, obviously put, we've said it before, I've said before at least, that ever since, and here's the thing though, my assumption was ever since Ichigo went into the Dangai and trained with his inner hollow and his inner Shinigami side at the time, Tenza Zangetsu and the inner hollow, and we saw them fuse together. The assumption was at that point in time that those two powers had permanently fused. But according to what Uetsu's saying, no. That's always been the case. That's always been the case. The case is that whenever we saw Ichigo's inner hollow, in actuality, that was the combination of his Shinigami powers and his hollow powers. Basically, it's like it's an Arrancar. Like it's a Vassalore. Like, that's what it is. It's the fusion of the Shinigami and hollow powers. And that was always the case. Since birth. Forget about recently. Forget about like a year and a half ago. No, since birth, that was the case. That's what he's implying. And then we continue even further. And then Owachu finishes off. Wait, that means that's what Ichigo says. And then Owachu says, bingo. That other dude you've been chilling with, up until now, he's been inside your soul. That dude's been faking the funk. He's just been pretending to be your Zanpakuto. So, what does that mean? And that's the end. That's the end of the read-along. That means, simply put, is that Zangetsu was never his Zanpakuto to begin with. Zangetsu was never his Zanpakuto to begin with. Zangetsu is a poser. And then we have Owachu go even further, and he explains how look at, because apparently at some point, like, you know, he hears these words, and Ichigo all of a sudden he gets sucked inside his inner realm. He sees Zangetsu chilling on the usual skyscrapers and shit. And then all of a sudden, Ichigo's going to go talk to Zangetsu, and then we have Owachu talking to him. I don't know how exactly, but Owachu's talking to him while Ichigo is inside his own, you know, inner world. And then he explains, look even further, because now you should see. And then he explains how this guy is the same dude that's been running amok in Soul Society right now. Yuha like 1,000 years ago. Like, apparently this was Yuha Bak 1,000 years ago. And he says he's not your Shinigami powers, he's your Quincy powers. And that's where the chapter ends. So the reveal, the big reveal, and we've all seen Zanpakuto. I mean, we've all seen Yuha Bak, right? And he wears all white. And now we see Zangetsu, and he's him 1,000 years ago wearing all black. So maybe that's why Yuha Bak said, my son born to darkness. Because when you think about the Quincy, they normally wear all white. Like, they're glowing white. Like they're almost like angelic. Like, they always wear white. Like, without exception, literally. And when it comes to Zangetsu, he's always been wearing black. Like, he's always portrayed as black, like a black shadowy figure. So in some cases, like a jet black silhouette. So maybe that's the reason why Yuha Bak said, my son born in darkness. But the real interesting thing is, why is it that he is specifically Yuha Bak from 1,000 years ago? I don't know why that. I don't know why that's the case. But then when you question it, that means that wouldn't Tenta Zangetsu be Yuha Bak even older than that? Like Yuha Bak, like, you know, like 1,500 years ago, when he was still a child, when he's a kid. Like, it's not really explained in that, because I mean, again, this was the reveal chapter, so the explanation should come later on. But here's what I understand now, right? Here's why at the end of me reading this chapter like 5-6 times, I was like, oh, I knew, because there's a key thing here, and then I'm gonna throw it out there. But this is what I truly believe, okay? Sklaverei. Sklaverei. Now, what does that mean? That means slavery, and that's the German for slavery. And there's a particular person who did this thing in this arc, and his name was Kirge. Oh, listen, man. And I say this one page on the Bleach Wikia, and this is what I believe actually happened. All right. And then let me read for you. Sklaverei, and this is Kirge OP, uses the most basic ability to gather reishi in the most powerful way by enslaving it. It can literally tear away the components that make up a spiritual-based object, such as those who make up Hueco Mundo and Society, as well as the bodies of spiritual beings. When the body of a spiritual being is affected by this power, Kirge and any other Quincy that can do this Sklaverei can literally assume the characteristics and associated capabilities of his victims. Right there. I mean, I could be wrong, but right there. And roll clip. Now, you saw that clip right there. That could have possibly been the Sklaverei. That could have possibly been it. Zangetsu absorbed the power. He literally absorbed, by using the Sklaverei technique, absorbed the inner hollow. And the inner hollow there was already a fusion between the two powers of the inner hollow and the Shinigami. So by doing so, he could take the powers specifically of those of Shinigami because he had absorbed the inner hollow. You feel me? So, and that's what I think. The reason all this is now explained by the simple notion of the Sklaverei. So the whole entire thing about him meeting Tensa Zangetsu, and well, Tensa Zangetsu is a little bit iffy with that. It's a little bit iffy, but basically the whole entire thing with him training with Yoruichi, okay? The reason why he could do that was because of the fact that Zangetsu had already assumed the powers of a Shinigami because of the Sklaverei. And because of that reason, he could pose as a Shikai Bankai. Now, my thing, and so now if the question is, okay, so when they fuse together, when Tensa Zangetsu fused together with the inner hollow, what did that do? Basically, my assumption now, my proposal is, because remember how the Shinigami powers that Ichigo has correlate with his father's, right? Well, my assumption is just the simple fact that after so many months of being in the Dangai world, he honed his Shinigami and Hollow side to its maximum. And the Quincy side, when they fused together, just gave back that power. It was basically, the way I see it, it's like, if the powers are being naturally absorbed by the Quincy side, that means that the other side that's being absorbed from is going to be mitigating. Just how the Spirit Badge, just how the Shinigami Badge, how it, according to like Ginjo and the other Fullbringers, how the Shinigami Badge basically nerfed the powers of Ichigo. And the same thing could be said about Zangetsu. How because he was always taking away, how he was always absorbing the inner hollow and by doing so absorbing the inner Shinigami, then the powers were nerfed. And so when they fused back together, that was like his Shinigami and hollow at full bloom, because the powers are being returned to their original state. So you could argue that Mugetsu, that form he took, is in fact Ichigo's like normal state when he's activated in his original hollow / Shinigami powers. However, the Quincy powers, now that we understand that, okay, so this could in fact be Quincy powers, the question becomes, and here's the one problem that I have. Here's where things get iffy. Why is it that the Quincy powers, which have only awakened as of late, were apparently, at the beginning of Ichigo's life, more dominant to the point where they could absorb the other powers and pose as the other powers? I don't know. I mean, it could be because of the fact that Ichigo was born human and Quincy's are human. But then again, your question is, okay, so where do the Fullbringers lie? Because Ichigo, he is like a mix of Fullbringer. And Fullbringer is just another term for being like an Arank or a human. I mean, a hollow human. So the thing about it is that you do wonder, because when it came to the actual series itself, the first powers that seemed to manifest were the Shinigami powers because of Rukia. However, that may not be the case because of the fact that Ichigo was born human and Quincy's are human. And because of that, maybe when he was first born, the dominant power was in fact the Quincy power. However, because of Rukia's interference, the Shinigami powers came into full bloom. But because of the prior Quincy dominant power establishment, it could absorb the Shinigami powers and pose as a Shinigami. Now, why would it do it? The question is, why would Zangetsu do that? We don't know why. And that we'll probably explain later on as this arc continues. Maybe next week's chapter, maybe a week after that. We're not too sure. But that's what I'm thinking so far. So once again, let's review. I believe that the reason why all these things occurred prior to this information is because of the Sklaverei ability that the Quincy's have. And Zangetsu, he absorbed the inner hollow, therefore absorbing the Shinigami powers, which were already pre-fused when Ichigo was born, when he was a child, and posed as these powers. Furthermore, Zangetsu is not his real Zanpakuto because of that pre-established reason of the Sklaverei. And because of that, Ichigo now is going to awaken his true Zanpakuto ability, which is the already pre-established fusion of the Hollow and of the Hollow and the Shinigami. So, I mean, I could be dead wrong, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. So I'm done. The chapter rating overall, I thought it was an amazing chapter. I mean, truth be told, it's mainly exposition and it's confusing. But this chapter really made me think. Like, it sat my ass down and it made me think. And I had to go back and do some research. And when I have to do that for a chapter, normally it's going to be great. But this particular chapter, because I think I'm right, I'm going to give it an amazing. Just because of that reason alone. So I could be wrong, but we'll see as the series progresses. So I'm done keylining. Be sure to, of course, rate, comment, and subscribe as always. Peace. Have a nice day. And by the way, I just got a Twitter account. Follow me on Twitter at King of Lighting. That is Lighting. King of Lighting. Peace. Have a nice day.